Hey everyone, so in today's video we're going to be working on poetry, what it is, and the structure that it follows. Alright, so for a quick second here, just do a quick write, asking yourself what is poetry. Write in your little quick write in your Google Slides, what is poetry? So what is poetry? Poetry is literature written in stanzas and lines. And we're going to talk about stanzas and lines as we move through this poem. Authors put a lot of ideas, thoughts, and feelings into a few carefully chosen words. Authors choose words for the beauty, symbolism, sounds, and meaning. There is a very famous poem that is only 2 lines, and it took the man 1 year to write the poem, and it's his most famous poem. It's a beautiful poem. It's a deep poem. It takes a lot of analysis to really analyze it. It's 2 lines of poetry. So what is a line of poetry? Sorry, hold on. Poetry structure, the parts of a poem. So how is a poem structured? How is a poem made? It's made through stanza, repetition, rhyme scheme, and of course lines. So when we look at stanzas, before we look at stanzas, a line is basically, as you look at your definition, just one row in the poem. All right, from one side of the page to the next in one row. It's almost like a sentence. So then a stanza is almost like a paragraph. It's a small section of a poem made up of 1 or more lines. So this would be a line of poetry, this yellow line here, 2 lines, 3 lines, 4 lines, 5 lines, and we will always count out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So however many, and usually it'll be numbered for you around the 5th line, every 5th line. So 5, and then it'll be numbered at the 10, and then the 15, and so on and so forth. And then you would go by stanza numbers as well. So this is your first stanza, second stanza, etc. It's separated from other stanzas by a stanza break, and it'll be just a spacing, just like you would do with the paragraph. So here really quickly, just practice dragging this around. It's not going to work in slideshow mode. Dragging this around to your stanzas. How many do you have? And drag the boxes around to cover those stanzas. Moving forward from that, repetition. We've been already kind of exposed to repetition with alliteration. So repetition is repeating words, phrases, lines, or stanzas. And in the case of alliteration, it's repeating sounds. So when it comes to repetition, it can be any of these things. If you see it repeated more than one time, you know that it is repetition. Now just keep in mind that with repetition, we're not talking about seeing the word a or the word the, or, words that just are helping your line or your point get made. We're talking about like big words repeated, okay? And when it comes to repetition, it can be anywhere in the poem. If you see a word in the first line and then it comes back up in the 10th line, 15th line, last line, then it is repetition. Stanzas, you all know a lot. If you listen to a Taylor Swift song, you know all about repetition, repeating stanzas, because that's all Taylor Swift does. She has a 7-minute song, and 5.5 minutes of it is a chorus, repeating the stanza, repeating that chorus. Why do we repeat things? It strengthens the feeling or idea. It creates rhythm. It can also develop a sense of urgency. And also just thinking about, with repetition, think about when your parents repeat things. Why do they repeat things? There's a reason why. It's stressing an importance to why they're repeating it. Rhythm we're going to talk more and more about. It's tough to understand rhythm. So put a box around whatever you see repeated in here, and then why do you think the author repeated this line? There's just a 2 forward here in your notes. Okay. Rhyme. Everyone knows rhyme, or I think we know rhyme. Repetition of similar sounds in 2 or more words. It helps to make the poem musical. Now, where is the rhyme located for it to be rhyme? It must be located at the end of each line, and it's called an ending rhyme. Now, there are other rhymes that exist in the world, but we're only going to be looking at ending rhymes. And so with ending rhymes, we're thinking like words like bad, sad, dad, fad, lad, rad, pad, right? Mad. That AD sound is your rhyme, okay? And you'll see that repeated out throughout songs at the end of a line of poetry. So when you do that, you'll create this thing called a rhyme scheme. And a rhyme scheme is a pattern of rhyme created at the end of lines of poetry. Each end sound is assigned a letter of the alphabet starting with A. Purpose helps make the poems more musical and gives the reader predictability. So as you're looking at a poem, the fallen leaves are cornflakes that fill the lawn's white dish. The night and noon, the wind a spoon and stirs them with a swish. You notice you would start with the letter A at cornflakes, A, and then you would go here. If this end rhyme aches rhymes with this end rhyme ish, then we would continue with A. But it doesn't, so you would write the letter B. Then you would move on to the third one. If spoon rhymes with either of the ending rhymes in front of it, then you would put one of those letters. If not, you would put a C. So now we're at A, B. Spoon doesn't rhyme with either of those. C. And then finally at the end, if anything rhymes above, you write that letter. If not, you continue down the alphabet, D. So A, B, C. Oh, swish rhymes with dish, B. So we have an A, B, C, B rhyme. And then, of course, this would also follow that A, B, C, B rhyme on the next stanza. Moving forward here as well, same idea. And then the last thing I want to talk about are line breaks. This is where the line of a poetry ends. It comes at the end of each line in a poem. It helps control the rhythm. They speed up, slow down, or create tension in a poem. And so what this does is this helps with the rhythm because poems are meant to be read aloud. So line breaks allow you to stop and pause and break and do whatever you need to do as you're reading a poem. So here, as we're reading, take this red box. Where do you think that you should pause, or where do you think you should stop reading the poem? And once you finish this, complete this quizzes, and then of course the structure of poetry quests. Thanks everybody. Have a good one.